I was in like the deepest stage of it, I just felt so alone. I just felt like even my own sister, who I've grown up with, is just looking at me and doesn't understand anything, you know.
Open Dialogue gave us that opportunity really to explore everything and to talk to one another and get to know really everyone's sort of secrets and not judge one another on whatever we might be or not be. And
our first session in the hospital was just so powerful, wasn't it? Yeah. It was just amazing. Yeah. It was like you just sort of come out and you felt like you just unloaded lots and lots of stuff and you'd been heard. It was like we'd all said a little bit and we'd all had our say and we'd been listened to and they'd made comments back to us and it felt like you were getting somewhere.
There was this little fire that had been lit and it was burning and we were just keeping it going.
Yeah.
And then we were sort of able to continue to keep that ball rolling and keep that sort of fire going.
Yeah, so it felt like we was on our own before and then when Yasmin and her team come in, it felt like you had someone there with you doing it as well and it didn't feel so raw.
And being a sister, not just being a practitioner, being a mum, thinking like a mum, thinking like that sort of character, I think.
But actually telling each other what was talking to each other, conversing.
Yeah, and feeling like the people that you were working with were all friends and in it together, and you sort of felt this collective identity of like, yes, we're gonna like do something.
And I've been to counselling before where you've sat there and you've got it all written down. No one does that. It's all just listened to, and you don't feel like, oh, what are they writing? You know.
Yeah,
it was just
like there's no white coat.
My main problem with it was going into A&E on a Saturday night and being seen by doctors, and they wasn't interested. Well, I wasn't saying I was making no sense to anyone, but they. You know, you sort of think, if I just tell them that, they'll just push me out the front door and, I can go on my merry way. But that wasn't the case. They had to assess how I was and then get in the mental health team. When the mental health team came in, they locked me in a room, which felt like a bit of a cell, with like a tiny little window in a door, and just wrote down a load of notes.
People were like hearing us, but I think there's a big difference between the listening and the hearing.
Yeah, and they're like something's going on. We'll see you again in a couple of days.
See you later. Bye. It's written in notes.
We've heard that before. We've heard that. But when Yasmin come in, it's like I'm listening and I'm processing and I'm sitting with it and I'm acting upon it and you're crying about it and I'm feeling that, and everyone was just
and there was no time limit on it either, so like if we had a session here we could sit here for an hour, 2 hours. There was never any time limit. It was never sort of like, oh right, you finished your time now, we're off. And that was really good, to know that we could let out what we needed to say or cry or whatever.
Each individual person gets
to say what they wanted to say without judgment.
Yeah. When they turn up, it was more about how you wanted to use your time or how we wanted to use the time rather than how they were going to use our time. And that really gave us the power to be the sort of sourcer of the recovery and Brett to be the source of his own recovery.
In sessions, we've actually all gone off on tangents with talking, like Kirsty was upset one day, weren't we?
Yeah.
And we talked about that, and nothing was talked about Brett that particular day. But, like if someone was having a bad day, then that was brought in, which was good for me because that was looking after her problems as well, So both of them were being sorted.
Yeah, it was sort of, really felt like there was no sort of bias.
Again, at the start of my psychotic episode was thinking that you were unwell and taking drugs and being led down this path, and but I couldn't see it was me just creating this story that.
Yeah, but it was just like, it was so equal. It didn't even feel like Brett had issues. It wasn't like, oh Brett, we've come to have this meeting because you're a problem. There was none of that. It was never like Brett's unwell and we need to have these meetings. It was like we need to all get together and talk and listen and sometimes just sit together in silence and that would be what we would do. And everyone was so equal there. It wasn't like anyone could have come in, and the sort of sense of equality was really empowering, I think, in our sessions.
I do feel that there's, again, someone behind you guys.
It's a bit of a cliche, but you just felt really comfortable and at ease with open dialogue. that, again, like I said before, that you had someone on your side, someone batting your sort of corner.
Yeah. Which in a situation like that,
it wasn't doctors, and it didn't ever feel like, to me, it was like doctors and people that
and
were
telling you what to do.
Mighty and well, you should really be doing this and taking exercise.
It was just it was just listening and
drinking
talking,
water.
like we said.
Yeah.
And it sounds so ordinary, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But that's all it is.
But yeah,
and it's made the world of difference to us.
It's completely engaging, and you're really involving yourself and throwing yourself into these conversations that you might sometimes just want to walk away from because you don't like the sound of them, but it's kind of sort of swallowing some of those things and taking a big deep breath and being a bit of an adult about it and taking it on and saying, right, we're just going to sit with that and we'll talk about it next time. We don't need to talk about, some of the things that we've spoken about until the next session or... and maybe we could bring someone else in on this, on the conversation. And sometimes in sessions, people say stuff and you're like, I can't believe they said that about me, or like, I can't believe they thought that. Or in the session, you might